He's describing what is currently the dumbest strategy in politics, which is Democrats taking the 20% side of every 80-20 issue in America. USAID, people want this pared down. They want it streamlined. They want to know where the money is going. Democrats have a meltdown. Today, Donald Trump signs executive order on keeping boys out of girls' sports. Democrats take the 20 side of that issue as well. All these issues, this is like Trump's superpower, finding a bunch of 80-20 issues, getting on the 80, and everybody who's sort of reflexively against him gets on the 20. And now the Democratic Party has like a 31% approval rating. This is why.
I don't know.
That's Republican strategist Scott Jennings left a visibly shaken can panel at a loss for words, voicing a truth many have recognized for years. The Democratic Party often proves to be its own greatest obstacle. Welcome to my channel. Time and again, Democrats fall into the trap of dismissing President Trump's achievements as nothing more than products of corruption or blind luck. What's even more telling is their struggle to reframe objectively beneficial outcomes as political liabilities, such as increased transparency about government waste, a topic that genuinely resonates with American taxpayers. Here's Jennings methodically exposing the flaws in that misguided approach to the ever-performative pundits at Chen.
So not illegal, not illegal. You don't like the politics of it. I'll give you the other side. This is radical transparency on these USAID grants and other parts of the government that typically operate in an opaque fashion. And plenty of law degrees here. I'll give you the political view. The American people elected Donald Trump because they thought he was going to be a sledgehammer against this government and against the out-of-control bureaucracy, and Elon Musk is the instrument of the destruction. And there is nothing bad about the politics of this right now, about going through the government and reporting to the American people, did you know your money's going here? Did you know your money's going there? It's all upside for Trump.
Reproach where he shouldn't even be questioned about.
Yeah.
He's questioned by his boss, the President of the United States.
Is he?
Yeah.
No, they don't even know what he's doing. Yeah, that's the problem.
Trump said he would have authorization to do what he needed to do.
You can measure the growing desperation on the left by how quickly outlets like the New York Times resort to grasping at narratives this flimsy. Elon Musk isn't acting recklessly or without oversight. He's doing exactly what voters endorsed through President Trump, cutting through red tape, challenging entrenched bureaucracy, and demanding accountability. And let's be honest, there's more than a little irony in their outrage. On one hand, they're decrying Musk as an unelected figure with too much influence, yet on the other, they're furious that he's eliminating layers of wasteful, unaccountable management and exposing what increasingly resembles a bureaucratic shell game with taxpayer dollars.
I think this is absolutely America first. It's needed policy, and it's what people have been asking for years. And honestly, politicians have talked about doing this for a very long time. The only difference is they never do it. You've had presidents from both parties say, I'm going to make the government smaller. I'm going to go in and look at the bureaucracy and make it more efficient. I'm going to trim where I can, trim the fat. No one ever does it. Reports are written, committees meet, people have phone calls, press conferences are held. And nothing ever happens except the government gets larger and larger. Lo and behold, Donald Trump shows up and throws out the sledgehammer, the instrument of destruction, Elon Musk, to actually do it and do it at lightning speed. This is precisely what voters have been demanding. Is he going to break a few eggs along the way? That's fine. They'll have plenty of political latitude to do it because the action is what's wanted by the American people. Well, I think certainly Republicans are going to support what effectively amounts to the most aggressive and needed government audit we've ever had, no matter what agency it is. So, yes, I think the party is by and large going to support this. I mean, I think the Pentagon is an agency that absolutely should be looked at like any other. I don't want Elon Musk or anyone else going in and saying we need to shrink the size of our military or somehow reduce our national capacity to wage war or defend the nation. But you can't look at a bureaucracy this size and tell me that there is not waste, fraud, and abuse that could be ferreted out if somebody like Elon Musk and his team were willing to go in and do it. Of course they're going to find things. They'll find things in every single agency. And I think the American people are asking for that. And I have no doubt that you could get rid of some waste, fraud, and abuse in the Pentagon and have no impact on our national security whatsoever. And in fact, maybe you might enhance our national security by getting rid of some duplicative bureaucracy or some things where money's being spent on things it shouldn't be spent on, and maybe redirect those things to more mission-critical items.
Jennings hits the nail on the head. And if Democrats had even a modicum of introspection, they'd reevaluate their approach and adjust course. But that kind of self-correction is nowhere in sight. Instead, progressives, backed by their ever-compliant media allies, are doubling down on the same divisive virtue-signaling rhetoric that continues to alienate everyday Americans. A recent example: Ken brought on Representative Jasmine Crockett, who used her platform not to offer meaningful insight, but to deliver a condescending tirade about being tired of white tears from mediocre white boys. And rather than fostering honest dialogue, Ken followed up by unleashing one of its more unhinged panelists to shout down Scott Jennings and anyone else with the audacity to disagree. Live on Abby Phillips' show.
Not have the same opportunity as you. I know I don't.
And you know
and
that
I know
too.
Les Scott.
I got it. And you know that.
Let me just tell you about me.
I'm going to let you finish, but I want to answer this.
I'm not talking about how you feel. I'm talking about how I feel. Me, a black woman in this country.
But not in this city.
And I will run. And if you want
I'm a New Yorker, not in this city. You cannot say that. You can't say that in this city. I'm
not talking about New York. I'm talking about actually
let her finish.
right here. I got a law degree, a master's, and 2 bachelors. Probably more education than all of y'all added up together at this table, right? And I have always been the least paid person on payroll at every institution I have worked in. And it's not because...
Even in the White House?
Even in the White House.
Well, whose fault is that? I don't think he worked for George W. or Trump.
Well, guess what happened when I was there? DEI. Scott.
Look.
Scott Jennings' response says it all. America has had enough. This is exactly the tone, deaf, performative noise that Jennings has criticized. The ideological posturing of a loud minority completely out of touch with reality. It's reminiscent of what Brett Weinstein said on the Joe Rogan Experience. Establishment Democrats and their media enablers are like dinosaurs, unaware that a political meteor has hit them. They're floundering in a world that has moved on without them. The reality is there's no going back to the old status quo. Their hypocrisy has been exposed. Their power is slipping and their narrative is collapsing under its own weight. If they continue to cling to this old divisive ideology, the next 4 years will come at them like a freight train. But what do you think? How much longer can Democrats continue to push this kind of woke politics before reality finally catches up? Elsewhere, The View host Anna Navarro was embarrassed on air by Scott Jennings.
About it. If you say that it's a problem to not run this by DOJ,
no,
it's got to be a problem to not run other
little
pardons.
Transparency.
He pardoned 1,600 January 6th convicted January 6th rioters, including people who assaulted
and
police.
talked about doing it for months.
And yeah, but it didn't go.
There's no question that some unnamed family member did it on his behalf. We don't know that about Biden.
Just to be intellectually honest, you would also have to say that should have gone through a process, and it did not.
Well, to be intellectually honest, why are you denying all of the mainstream reporting about who was actually running the Biden White House?
That's a change,
including reporting.
You were just saying that this had not been run by DOJ. But
tonight we are all about changing topics when questions are being asked. But I just want to note that is not what we were discussing.
The problem is that he is looking for a loophole to be able to investigate these people. And here's the problem: that if he tells Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, go and investigate Liz Cheney, and here's the loophole because these pardons don't hold, do you think they're going to push back on him?
The recent exchange between Republican strategist Scott Jennings and The View co-host Anna Navarro on Ken showcased the deep ideological divide shaping modern American political discourse. Jennings, as usual, brought a data-driven, grounded perspective, arguing that the Democratic Party is alienating everyday Americans by prioritizing fringe activism and divisive rhetoric over practical policy. He pointed to the growing public exhaustion with identity politics and performative outrage, arguing that Democrats, by refusing to pivot or engage in self-reflection, are sabotaging their own relevance. Navarro, on the other hand, pushed back forcefully, dismissing Jennings' concerns as conservative talking points and framing progressive advocacy as a moral imperative. She argued that calling out systemic inequality and defending marginalized communities isn't woke theater, but a reflection of American values evolving toward justice and inclusion. To her, Republicans are the ones stuck in the past, exploiting cultural fear and nostalgia while offering little in the way of real solution. What made the exchange compelling wasn't just the clash of ideologies, but how it mirrored the broader national debate. Jennings represents the pragmatic results, focused voter who's tired of symbolic politics, while Navarro channels the emotional and cultural urgency many Democrats feel in today's political climate. The tension between those two worldviews, one prioritizing outcomes, the other emphasizing values, is at the heart of the ongoing identity crisis facing both parties. Additionally, Scott Jennings has had a number of heated debates with The View hosts in the past, most notably Sunny Hostin. One exchange quickly went viral and sparked widespread debate. The discussion, which centered on the latest bombshell revelations involving former President Donald Trump, took a sharp turn when Jennings launched into a blistering critique of the current trajectory of the Democratic Party. He accused Democratic leaders and their allies in the media of weaponizing identity politics to distract from the real economic and cultural concerns facing ordinary Americans. Sunny Hostin, visibly moved and visibly troubled by Jennings' blunt assessment, responded forcefully, defending the party's emphasis on social justice and calling attention to the historical inequalities that persist in American institutions. The moment resonated far beyond the studio. Within hours, clips from the segment were trending on Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok, sparking a nationwide conversation about political narratives, media bias, and the future of both major parties. Some praised Jennings for speaking up about truths they felt had long been ignored, while others criticized his remarks as dismissive and provocative. Regardless of one's perspective, it was clear the exchange hit a sensitive spot. Ultimately, moments like these aren't just viral clips. They're a reflection of a nation struggling with two very different visions of its future. Scott Jennings' confrontation with the hosts of The View broke through the noise and exposed a deep divide between the political elite and the average American they claim to represent. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Let us know what you think. And if you found this video meaningful, give it a like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.